se corta en transmisión. Intento hablar, no hay conexión. Solo silencio en la expansión. El aire pesa al respirar. Algo se empieza a fracturar. Entre nosotros hay presión. Falló la comunicación. El indicador empieza a bajar. Cada segundo pesa más y aún estás ahí. Responde ya antes que el aire se vaya a acabar. Oxígeno bajo en el corazón. No puedo respirar sin tu voz. La nave pierde navegación y se apaga la transmisión. Si aún me puedes escuchar, manda una señal al radar. Antes que todo deje de girar, antes de dejarnos caer al final. Se acaba el aire aquí. No te puedo sentir. Si estás ahí, responde a mí. No me dejes sentir. La presión sube en la cabina. Tu silencio domina la rutina. Todo parece fuera de control. Fallan los sistemas del motor. Intento volver a calibrar, pero todo vuelve a fallar. Si este viaje era de los dos, porque siento solo el control. El indicador empieza a bajar. Cada segundo pesa más y aún estás ahí. Responde ya antes que el aire se vaya a acabar. Oxígeno bajo en el corazón. No puedo respirar sin tu voz. La nave pierde navegación y se apaga la transmisión. Si aún me puedes escuchar, manda una.
This is Artemis Mission Control at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. We are continuing to monitor the flight of Artemis 2 and our 4 astronauts, Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen, aboard the Orion spacecraft, a test flight with the first time we have ever had crew on this spacecraft. It's been 9 hours and 16 minutes since launch, and the spacecraft is now over 39,000 miles away from Earth in a high Earth orbit. The crew will remain in this high Earth orbit for the first approximately 24 hours of the mission before the translunar injection burn that will commit them to flying by the moon and returning home. It was a busy day for the crew after liftoff with the perigee raise maneuver, apogee raise burn, continuing to keep us in that high Earth orbit. Moving into the proximity operations demonstration when pilot Victor Glover manually flew Orion in relation to the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, followed by the upper stage separation burn where Orion departed that interim cryogenic propulsion stage and the crew stepped into their cabin configuration procedures. The crew has since gone to sleep and in just a few hours will wake up once again for the perigee raise burn. This lifts the lowest point of Orion's orbit around the Earth, again keeping us in that high Earth orbit and setting us up for the translunar injection burn tomorrow. After the perigee raise burn, the crew will get the chance to go back to sleep for a few hours before waking up for flight day 2. The Orbit 1 team is preparing their Orbit 2 shift as they come on console and conducting those handovers, meaning I am also handing over the PAO console to my colleague and friend Anna Schneider. Our live coverage continues on NASA's YouTube 24/7 throughout the mission, all the way through splashdown and spacecraft recovery. And we have got a lot of exciting things to come, so I hope you will continue tuning in. And thanks for joining us so far.
Good morning from Mission Control Houston. I'm Anna Schneider with NASA Communications here inside the Artemis Mission Control Room. We are currently on console with the Orbit 2 team of flight controllers who recently completed their handover ship period with the Orbit 1 team of flight controllers who just went off shift after completing their shift. During the Orbit 1 shift, they completed the prox ops demonstrations or proximity operations, during which they manually piloted the Orion spacecraft in relation to the ICPS, or Interim Cryogenic Propulsion System. The crew is currently in their sleep period, and today's sleep period is split in two parts. The crew will be woken in about 3 hours to prepare for the PRB, or perigee raise burn, which is scheduled for about 3 hours and 39 minutes from now. This burn will adjust Orion's perigee, or the lowest point of its orbit, into the correct orbital geometry to set it up for its translunar injection, or TLI burn, planned for Flight Day 2. You are currently seeing a live look inside the Artemis Mission Control Room here in Mission Control Houston. And currently leading the team here in Mission Control Houston for the Orbit 2 team is Flight Director Paul Kanya, there on the far right hand of your screen. Following a launch yesterday at 5:35 p.m. Central, 6:35 p.m. Eastern, the spacecraft is now about 40,000 miles away from Earth in its high Earth orbit. And there now on your screen, you are seeing views from the Artemis Real-Time Orbit website, or ARO, which provides live data and telemetry from the Orion spacecraft when we don't have live views from the spacecraft itself. Again, we will continue providing live coverage throughout the Artemis mission as it makes its way to the moon and back. And again, coming up in about 3 hours and 38 minutes, we will have that next major milestone, which is the perigee raise burn. Again, coming up in about 3 hours and 38 minutes, we will have that next major milestone, which is the perigee raise burn. This is Mission Control Houston. There on your screen, you are seeing a live view from the Orion spacecraft. Up on the top right hand of your screen, you can see the edge of one of the solar array wings or saws. And this Orion spacecraft was named by the Artemis II crew, so its name is Integrity. And the Artemis II crew currently on board the Orion spacecraft includes NASA astronaut and commander Reed Wiseman, NASA astronaut and pilot Victor Glover, and then the mission specialists are NASA astronaut Christina Cook and CSA, or Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen. We are about 10 hours into this mission, 10 hours and 3 minutes to be exact, since liftoff yesterday at 5:35 p.m. Central, 6:35 p.m. Eastern Time. That liftoff took place from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Following that initial liftoff, the crew completed a apogee raise burn, or ARB, and then they also completed a perigee raise maneuver. And then just a few hours ago, they completed what is known as the ProxOps, or Proximity Operations Demonstration. They've also completed several checkouts of the systems on the Orion spacecraft, including some emergency communication systems. And during that ProxOps demonstrations, they were able to practice flying their spacecraft towards and around the ICPS, or Interim Cryogenic Propulsion System. The purpose of that demonstration was to test Orion's handling systems, because on future missions, Orion will dock with other spacecraft, and it was able to verify that Orion can do that safely. After that ProxOps demonstration was completed, the ICPS fired its engines again for a disposal burn, and then Orion continued in its high Earth orbit, where it remains currently. The Orion spacecraft is just under 41,000 miles away from Earth. And again, the crew currently on board the Orion spacecraft is in their split sleep period, so today's sleep period is split in two. They will wake up in a little under 3 hours from now to complete the perigee raise burn. That perigee raise burn is scheduled to take place in about 3 hours and 27 minutes from now, but they will complete some preliminary targeting for that burn in just about 3 minutes to ensure everything is on track to execute that burn in a little over 3 hours from now. To ensure everything is on track to execute that burn in a little over 3 hours from now. This is Mission Control Houston. We are 10 hours and 15 minutes into the Artemis 2 mission, and there on your screen you are seeing a live view of the Orion spacecraft. It is currently maneuvering into a biased tail to sun attitude. In this attitude, it allows the spacecraft to manage thermal constraints and power generation. It uses this attitude as its primary passive or passive safe flight orientation during transit to maintain thermal balance and maximize power generation. Again, the crew is currently in their sleep period, and they will remain in that sleep period for another 2 hours or so before they start preparing for the perigee raise burn, or PRB. That burn is planned to take place in about 3 hours and 16 minutes from now. And there on your screen, you're now seeing a live view inside the Artemis Mission Control Room here in Mission Control Houston. On the right-hand side of your screen, you can see the EECOM console. This stands for the Emergency Environmental and Consumables Manager. And this individual is responsible for the internal thermal control systems, air and water supply, and purification systems aboard the Orion spacecraft. And they also manage emergency response. The equivalent to this flight control position in the International Space Station flight control room just down the hall is the ethos position. And then in front of the EECOM console, you can see MPO. Also on the right-hand side of your screen, that stands for the Mechanical and Power Officer. And this console position is responsible for the electrical power generation, the solar arrays, the array rotation mechanisms, and the power distribution systems of the Orion spacecraft. They also manage the crew hatch, docking mechanisms, vehicle pyrotechnic devices, parachutes, and water riding systems. And the equivalent to that position in the International Space Station Flight Control Room is the position known as Spartan. Again, the Orbit 2 team of flight controllers is currently on console. For the duration of the Artemis 2 mission, there will be 3 orbits or shifts of flight controllers managing the Orion spacecraft and its crew. And currently leading the Orbit 2 team of flight controllers here in the room is Flight Director Paul Kanya, there on the center of your screen. This is Mission Control Houston. We are currently 10 hours and 25 minutes into the Artemis II mission. The Artemis II crew inside the Orion spacecraft lifted off atop the Space Launch System rocket on Wednesday, April 1st at 5:35 p.m. Central, 6:35 p.m. Eastern from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. This crew is the first to live and work inside the Orion spacecraft, and there on your screen you are seeing a live view of that Orion spacecraft as it continues its high Earth orbit. About 49 minutes after launch, the ICPS engine fired to raise the perigee, or the lowest point of the spacecraft's orbit, to a safe altitude of 100 miles above Earth. And then about an hour later, when Orion reached that perigee, the ICPS fired again to continue raising the spacecraft into a high Earth orbit, where it currently remains. The crew then began testing various systems, such as the life support system, communications and navigation systems, to confirm that they were ready for the outbound trip to their moon. They also removed their Orion Crew Survival System suits, or AUX suits, to get settled in for their journey around the moon. About 3 hours into the mission, the crew then completed their proximity operations demonstration, which tested Orion's handling systems. On future missions, Orion will dock with other spacecraft, so this was able to verify that Orion can do so safely. So the ICPS was repurposed as a docking target. It separated from Orion, and the crew practiced flying their spacecraft toward and around it as part of this demonstration. Once the proximity operations demonstration was complete, the ICPS fired its engines again for disposal burn, and Orion continued its high Earth orbit. Fast forward to now, the Artemis II astronauts are currently asleep on board the Orion spacecraft named Integrity. Again, you can see that Orion spacecraft there on your screen. They began their sleep shift about 2 hours ago and have about 2 hours remaining. Today's sleep shift is split due to the upcoming perigee raise burn, which is scheduled to take place in about 3 hours and 5 minutes from now. This burn will adjust Orion's perigee, or the lowest point of its orbit, into the correct orbital geometry to set it up for its translunar injection, or TLI burn, planned for Flight Day 2. Following the perigee raise burn later this morning, the crew will perform a brief checkout of their emergency communications on the Deep Space Network at the most distant point of their high Earth orbit, which is necessary before that TLI burn takes place. After that emergency communications checkout is complete, the crew will then resume their sleep period. And with that, we will go ahead and review the flight day highlights from launch up until now.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us live from NASA's Kennedy Space Center, where we are beginning a new chapter in America's human spaceflight story. We are so humbled to have thousands of people here in person to witness this, and the many more watching online from around the world. I'm NASA's Megan Cruz, and this is NASA astronaut Nicole Ayers.
Thanks, Megan. What a historic day to be here.
What a historic day to be here. Obviously, for what we see right behind us here, the SLS rocket and Orion spacecraft on launch pad 39B. Artemis II is a nearly 10-day flight test to prove NASA can safely fly astronauts around the moon before attempting to land on it in just 2 years, hopefully.
Yes, like you said, it's a test flight, so we're going to put humans on this rocket for the first time ever, and we're going to test out the systems on board and hopefully get around the moon.
And in charge of liftoff today is Launch Director Charlie Blackwell Thompson. She and her team are just across the street from us inside of the Launch Control Center. They kicked off continuous around-the-clock operations just before 5 p.m. on Monday and started fueling the rocket about 4 hours ago.
That com cap will also connect into the suit, which then eventually connects into the capsule through an umbilical there. So there's a lot of cords and wires. You can see them tuck in that cord under his chin right now.
And so the suits they're wearing, they're called the Orion Crew Survival Suits, or AUX suits. And so they're worn for launch and reentry or during high-risk or emergency situations.
And welcome into Firing Room 1, a historic firing room here at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here reporting what's happening as we lead up to countdown and liftoff of Artemis II. So far, looking pretty good. You see the rocket out there on the pad. It is launch day, and we just got that crew weather brief that you were talking about from Launch Director Charlie Blackwell Thompson to the crew. It looks like a countdown at this point is in good shape, and that's great news. Fueling continues to track well. We just reached all stages replenished.
Now, Reed Wiseman is a Baltimore native. He's been in space once before, as flight engineer for Expedition 41 aboard the International Space Station from May through November 2014. And so now here we are, pilot Victor Glover. NASA selected the California native as an astronaut in 2013. At the time, he was actually serving as a legislative fellow in the United States Senate. His first trip to space was in November 2020 when he launched as pilot of NASA's SpaceX Crew 1 mission. That was the first operational mission of NASA's Commercial Crew program. And so it looks like Christina here has completed her suit leak checks as well, her communication checks too.
Yep, they've already got her gloves off. They're getting ready to kind of hang out and relax a little bit, I think, before they walk out.
She is a mission specialist for this mission, native of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Was selected to the astronaut corps in 2013, so actually same class as Victor. And last but not least, first-time flyer, Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen will fly to the moon as a mission specialist on the Artemis II mission. The London, Ontario native was selected as an astronaut in 2009. After that, he worked as CATCOM at NASA's Mission Control Center in Houston.
The team you see here in this room today has been training extensively to prepare for the highly dynamic phase of flight that begins shortly after engine ignition. Teams here will be monitoring the flight of the Space Launch System, Orion, and of course the Artemis II crew on board as they make their way from the Kennedy Space Center into Earth orbit.
Yes, a pre-flight tradition that we have seen with our crewed flights and our astronauts, the card game, Nicole.
Yeah, you know, this is a fun time for the crew. Kind of relax a little bit, play a card game with the chief. You can see Scott Tingle there is the dealer today. Looks like they're playing high card wins. So Victor won, he's out, now Jeremy's out. You know, there are two schools of thought on this game. Either you want to get rid of all your bad luck or go out on a high note. So it looks like the crew chose we're going out on a high note.
Now, the SLS, or the Space Launch System, very big, very powerful. It is going to be producing 8.8 million pounds of thrust at launch. And like I mentioned, very large, as you can see here, going to stand about 322 feet tall with Orion there on top, just a little bit taller than the Statue of Liberty.
And here we are, the closeout crew in the White Room getting ready for the astronauts who have just left crew suit up and are now walking down a hallway to greet some family and friends downstairs. Commander Reed Weissman, pilot Victor Glover, mission specialist Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen. And here they are, NASA's Artemis II crew. Commander Reed Weissman, pilot Victor Glover, and mission specialist Christina Cook and Jeremy Hansen taking their first steps outside for their historic test flight. To a wonderful applause from the crowd. They're looking really excited
Some
and
big
really
smiles.
ready.
I love that.
Out here. It's a great day for us. It's a great day for this team.
A few words from Reed. Great day for us, the team, he said. Thumbs up, more thumbs up. Of course, a lot of pictures. We hear some camera shutter clicks back there. I love the energy of this crowd. Let's go. And so now the crew walking over to each of their pens. The first people closest to them, of course, their family members who got to quarantine with them, correct?
Yes.
You heard Reed there saying thank you guys as the crowd picks up again with their applause and the four of them step into their Astrovan.
And there they go.
And off they go. Reed, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy now on their way to launch pad 39B, where they will fly to the moon. Something no human has done in over 50 years. They may also set a new record as the farthest humans have ever been from Earth, a record set by the Apollo 13 crew almost 56 years ago today.
Yeah, you know, we talked about how tall this rocket is earlier.
Wow.
Look at that.
Yeah, look at that point of view, yeah. And now we're watching the crew walk across the crew access arm, getting a beautiful view of Kennedy Space Center.
from 274 feet. Whew.
Nicole laughs because Nicole is also, like Reed, does not like heights.
Do not like how open that career access arm is. Oh, and he's already turned around and walking in. You can see Dre's protecting his helmet and his visor there from all that metal.
Yeah.
It's a tight squeeze, but they've done this a lot, so Reed's already all the way across the capsule.
Yeah, that was fast. Impressive, Reed. Impressive. That's why you're the commander. Oh, a heart there from Jeremy again. Yep, Canada.
Yeah.
Canada is about to get into Orion. This is a camera shot of behind Reed's head. So Reed, while Andre is buckling him in, that's a 5-point harness, Reed was configuring his control panel.
Yeah, the displays. We're getting the displays ready so that they can monitor all of the systems and monitor the launch as they go. Christina there signing the wall.
That they're working there. And there's a heart from Christina Cook. Great to see that as she gets ready to get into the Orion spacecraft, one that they named Integrity. It certainly fits this crew from what I've observed.
Drag on camera, like we were saying, that kind of moves around, so sometimes it's hard to show that, so there you have it. You can see that the closeout crew has closed the side hatch. And so right now, that's a panel that they have to close out in order to then close the next hatch, which is the launch abort system hatch.
We are currently not working any constraints with regards to the rocket or the ground systems. But the launch team has been made aware of an issue that the range is working. And currently they're monitoring that work that is going on over at the range. We understand that issue is related to the flight termination system. Now, the flight termination system, just to give you a quick explainer, every rocket has a flight termination system. It's the system that the Eastern Range here uses in order to send a destruct signal to a rocket in case it veers off path. So it's a very critical, important safety component. The bottom line of all this is, at this moment, the range is no-go. But that is not stopping us from moving forward in the countdown. We can continue to process and work the countdown. The closeout crew will continue to do their work, and the launch team will continue to do their work as well. We're just getting an update, in fact, about what I was about to report out on the range, and the good news is the range is go.
As we see now live inside of the White Room at the launch pad, the closeout crew has closed the launch abort system hatch. You saw there, we took it live. Took a lot of them, I think all of them. Except for one. I think it took all 3 or 4 of them to push that hatch door closed, and then they felt around the perimeter of the door to make sure that everything was sitting just right.
We currently are hearing the launch team is working an issue that was reported out with the LAS. At least there's an issue apparently with a battery on the LAS. The engineer who is in charge of the launch abort system sits on console here, reported that a temperature for one of the 2 LAS batteries is out of range, and although it's not a constraint for launch right now, it would be when that temperature is checked inside of T-minus 6 minutes, which is inside of terminal count. So right now the team is working some troubleshooting on this issue. Going to follow, of course, along closely with what they learn. But again, a battery temp for one of the 2 batteries on the LAS is out of spec, and the team is working to understand, first of all, whether or not this may be a sensor issue, or is there an issue with the battery itself.
We're one big NASA team, one big NASA family, and we have one major message before we launch tonight. Okay, guys, what are we going to say? 1, 2, 3.
great news too. Remember, the team was tracking an issue with the launch abort system battery. They appear to have cleared that issue, so we are go for launch.
All right, thank you, Megan and Nicole, and just want to give you an update on the launch abort system that you just reported that they cleared. They believe, they're convinced, this is an instrumentation failure. So there are 2 batteries on the LAS. The LAS, of course, and with the help of my 2-year-old son's model rocket, Daniel said I could use this, so it's okay. The LAS is right here. It's the tower above Orion. Orion capsule is inside of here. It's used to pull Orion off the rocket in case something's going on with the rocket, either on the pad or in flight. 2 batteries are bad. Well, I'm sorry, one of the 2 batteries reported an out-of-family temperature, and it was very much out of family. And so they checked their data going back into the vehicle assembly building where they recharged the batteries and worked on them. And they have good, solid data, they reported, that tells them that this is an instrumentation failure, that there's something wrong with the sensor. And so they took it before the mission management team, which has to accept the risk, any changes to launch commit criteria, which this would be one, and they all fully accepted it. So now we are clear as far as that constraint is concerned.
NTD COSE hold requested.
Copy that.
I have an LCC violation of O-CT-004 S-band transponder anomaly. This was a transient LCC violation, so transponder 1 had a demodulated SNR estimate that went down to 2 dBm when it should have been between 10 and 13. It is now back up to 12, but we did lose that for just a moment. It does not appear that we lost our bit sync or carrier lock, which would be indicative that we lost our lock with the vehicle. So at this point, recommendation would still be go. However, we do have a pre-planned contingency procedure